Hey YouTube, this is Rescue Park Fan 62. It is Friday, January the 20th. Now, this is my review of Missing. Now, please note this. There is some uh like rape attempts and stuff like that in this video. So please be aware as well as some almost like blackmail. So let's get started. So first, you get all. It starts with she goes by her nickname, which is Junebug, and her mother. Now, her mother FaceTimes her and says, like remember to do this and this, like pick them up next week and stuff like that. She's like, okay. And then then she sent her a text message not long after that was basically like clear your voicemail and mostly just clear your voicemail. So her mother and her new boyfriend at the time named Alan um, were going on a trip to like Colombia and some of the other places in that region. So uh, the main character Junebug, which I'm gonna call her in this video, was has the like party girl aspect to her. So she was like for almost like a week straight, she was partying with her friends, and then on the seventh day at a party at her house, it finally took a toll on her. Um, now, so the next morning, um, she woke up to her alarm that said pick mom up at the airport, and so she looked at the time and she's like, oh, beep. And then looked at the house too. And this is where it starts getting interesting because so she had a sign uh, that said, welcome home from prison, mom. And she was there for about 2 hours or so. And then so her mom never came. So she was kind of worried. So she went back to her house and um, so she tried calling her mom a couple of times. She wouldn't answer. So so she called the hotel, uh, and of course, you had that language barrier in there. So she had to Google certain words and try and put that into Spanish. So in there, you had so you had this going on. So they were like, well, they checked out yesterday at 1 o'clock. So she's like, what? Um, and so then she hired basically like a cheap investigator to look around and try and figure this out. So they went to like hardware stores. Alan picked up a lock, but it was just mostly for like this love bridge that they had there, where you could basically put like your name and your spouse's name on a lock and put it right there. So it's kind of like one of those lovey touristy areas. So meanwhile, while this is going on, she Junebug was on the phone with her mom's lawyer. Um, I forgot her name, and as well as the private investigator, whose name was Javio, I think. Um, and so the private investigator didn't know what to do. So she called basically the FBI in Colombia. So, and they started looking as well. And so while they were looking, she started digging some more. So she got into her mom's email as well as Tim's or Alan, I'm sorry, email as well. And so she couldn't quite figure this out, what was going on. Um, and so at first she thought um, he was basically going to kill her and or extort her for money because it had all these other women in there that was talking about um, you stole my money and stuff like that. So she was trying to figure this out. Now, so she kept getting calls constantly about it. So about after a week of her mom being missing, this started to make the news. So local news, national news, international news. So you're talking about everything from your local news to stuff like CNN, Fox, that sort of thing, to international news over in like Colombia and that whole area. So the hunt was on for Tim at this point. And so she kept calling or trying to figure this out while having other people in this mix as well. So at this point, she was having news outside her house constantly for any updates. So one thing that she did was she went to go pay her mom's lawyer a visit. And so she knocked on the door. The door was open. So she went and saw the desk, saw these pictures on the desk, and be like, if you do this, I'll kill you. So, and then it showed the computer where it said 88% erasing files. She's like, what? And then so she heard something, so she ducked. So she went in what looked like a side room and found the lawyer um, dead on the floor. So so she was concerned about that as well. So you get to um, so she's trying to figure out what's going on while talking to the FBI agent and Javier as well. They had a small disagreement about something. Um, now, so finally, it looked like she they caught something in it. Apparently, Alan was going by many different names depending on who you talk to. So he's going by Alan, he was going by Jim, and all these other people. Um, so they weren't entirely sure who to look for in this situation. Now, also, there was talk about was Uber that took the mom and Tim or Alan to the airport earlier involved in this in any certain way. They said, as far as they were aware of, um, they weren't. They didn't have anybody uh, that on that day around that area or something like that. So that was a more part. And so one night, as Junebug was trying to figure this out, she got a call and looked at because they had one of those Ring doorbells, which I will get to all that in a couple of minutes. And so it was her father from the beginning of the movie, where it was showing her, the father, and then the mother when Junebug was little. So she's like, I just want to talk. Um, and so then, as soon as Junebug's phone rang, he basically abducted her, took her back to the house that they grew up in. So this is kind of where like the end of the movie goes, where she was like, "Why are you doing this?" Stuff like that. He never really said why, but he he tied her to a chair in what looked like her room from the beginning of the movie, and you um the interesting part about it was so then you had this scene where he went out to a shed and the mother was tied up in there as well. So she was trying to, I guess, hit the bricks or something to try and escape. So she did something and locked him in there. So she went in the house, heard Junebug in there, and um, so then Junebug was like, "Why is he doing this?" And the mother was like, "He's crazy." So then you find out that a lot of this started where at the beginning of the movie, Junebug and her father were playing hide and seek, and while they were playing hide and seek, the mom found a closet, and actually Junebug did as well, of drugs. So the mom never forgave him about that. So um, the mom, so he came back in yelling and screaming, and so um, and actually while he was out as well, she remembered something. So she got the camera from the air vent, uh, and then remembered uh, her phone was on the desk. So in it, she uh, said, "Siri, call 911." And so the police were called to that house. And while the police were waiting to show up, the mom cut him in a vein where he was basically bleeding out. So he was trying to type closest hospital. Uh, and he got about halfway there, and then he just collapsed on the desk, dead. So the police came, busted their door down, found them, and then Junebug, um, you find out this was sort of like one of those TV series you find like on Netflix or something called Unhinged, I believe. And then the mom's like, "Love you." She said, "Love you back." And then there were some other things in there as well. And that's the movie. So now, let me say this. The thing I liked about this movie was it showed that, oh, it showed everybody is not appeared to who they be in this movie or in the world. Now, one of the things she didn't know was Alan was a felon. Um, so also in the movie, I liked how it showed a dating app, sort of like it was like a dating app, so something similar to like Tinder or Hinge or Bumble or something in that ballpark. And it showed that, like them video chatting, like sending videos back and forth to each other. And so he confessed that, he did stuff in his past he was not fond of and stuff like that. So she's like, that's fine as long as you're not doing it anymore. So, and then the next thing I like too is how it showed like her using all these different sites. So Google, FaceTime, and all that as well. And some of the apps you normally use every day. So something like WhatsApp or something like that. But this is a movie I highly recommend you see so you can see people aren't always what they tend to be. Also, there's another person in there that Alan met where apparently he told her like she was going to be on some sort of reality show where it was just going to be like him filming from his cell phone. I think her name was like Bunny something. Her real name was like Rachel something as well. So that was interesting as well. Like I said, I highly recommend this movie. I highly suggest you watch it.